So we're about halfway through our fundraiser here at Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery in Battle Creek, where we are still trying to raise funds to help repair the roof on one of our main buildings, which will eventually become an opportunity for us to raise funds through offering classes, yoga classes, meditation classes, and a lot of community outreach. And I would like to thank all of you that have been donating, especially those of you that have never been here. We're seeing a lot of donations from new people that have been thanking us for the Dharma talks, and this is sincerely appreciated, as there's a lot of effort that goes into making sure that these talks are available. And I'd also like to thank everyone, all of the women in our community. Happy Mother's Day, not just those of you with children, but all of you that help make this community what it is, all the nurturing you do to support us, support practice, support the teachings. I'd like to particularly thank Unyo, who's hiding right now. Sokuzan's wife. She does such an incredible amount of work. This place would not be here without her. Our teacher would not be here without her. I'd like to also thank Kozan up north for supporting such a supportive and incredible Sangha that hosts Sokuzan on a monthly basis and who regularly come down here to practice and support the community. And I'd also like to thank my wife for tolerating me and for bringing this little guy, Rumi, to our community. So you can see that not only are we growing through offering practice and growing through the number of practice residents, but Rumi is our newest, youngest temple resident. He lives right here in the monastery with Senchu and I. So thank you again so much for your support. Thank you to all of you that are tuning in. And as always, you can make your donations through sokukoji.org with PayPal or credit cards. You can also send checks to Sokukoji Buddhist Community at 33 Anderson Court, Battle Creek, Michigan 49017. Happy Mother's Day, and Sokuzan will be in shortly to give his Dharma talk. Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers, would-be mothers. See a few here and there. I've been talking about a particular idea that I like to emphasize, and here I am emphasizing it. I think it's for the 13th time. A number of these. It's called Just Observe. This is number 13. This is the 13th talk I've given in order to badger you, push you, force you. No, not force. I won't force you. But to encourage you to drop your agenda around everything. Even sitting practice. Once you sit down and you hold still, when I say drop it, there's not much you can do to drop, but you can do something to not grasp or fuel something or draw something out of whatever the dark recesses of your mental stratum, and just to toy around with things and try to figure out things and try to get somewhere and see why you're not getting somewhere. All of the additions, all of the subtractions, all of the math around all of that is it's relatively accurate. It could be, but from the point of view of the spiritual path, less is better. So do some, and some people need to do a lot of that. So I'm not doing away with thinking. I'm not doing away with analyzing. What I'm saying is, as soon as you can, and this would be up to you, rather than me come by and say, check in on you. So, thinking a lot, are you? You know, like over your shoulder as you're, how's that going? Getting anywhere? So as you observe what comes through the six sense fields, the different objects of sight, color, shape, smell, taste, sounds. Just notice maybe a word I could use here, a description, just a leading edge of anything. The very first, Trungpa Rinpoche used to say, first thought, best thought. It was the title of his book of poems, actually, one of his books. First thought, best thought, and perhaps it's a thought. But it was a way, my understanding is a way to get you to just be direct about your thoughts, to be direct about your emotions, be direct about how you feel, what your reaction is. And if it comes up tattered and in rags, that's how it is. Don't dress anything up. This is jumping from the absolute as it appears relatively. I'll say that again. The absolute as it appears relatively is pretty close to first thought. We immediately want to dress it up. We just can't hardly stand to have, you mean it's just that? You mean it's just that? Must be something. There's something else, something else, something else. There isn't anything else. So what am I asking you to do? What I'm suggesting that you do is whatever occurs, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, thoughts, whatever they are, I don't care how horrific the first seeing of that, if it's a devil's mask, if it's an angel's wings, whatever polarity is happening, it's just polarities. Since we're in a relative situation, there's going to be lots of those, and they're extremely magnetizing. If you're in this room and food is in the other room and you're hungry and you smell, you don't see the food yet, but you start to smell odors from the kitchen. It's just a way of saying that there's something is always reaching out for your senses. You could say it that way. You could think about it that way. As long as you think that you're over here and the world is out there or over there, then it will do that. It will turn it into an intense feeling of me and them guys, or me and this polarity. So we don't want to fight with that. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of anything or talk you into anything. I'm just saying you need to do it. The Buddha did it. Others have done it. The lineage holders down through the centuries have done it, or this would not be warm bread. It would just be a cold recipe that with you not knowing where to get the ingredients at. You are the ingredients from the relative point of view. From the absolute point of view, which isn't actually a point of view, you're not separate from anything. It's not a big fancy deal. It won't necessarily feel like, whoa, man, this is great. I finally got it. What I've been looking for all this time. It may not be that great. Your particular version, and I emphasize that, your version, you're still embodied. You're not going to be a 16-foot golden Buddha. You can't become something that you are. So whatever is occurring in any of the sense fields, including the mind, just receive. We don't generate thoughts. If you think you generate thoughts, you're going to spin. And in that spinning, you're going to get dizzy. And in that getting dizzy, you're going to suffer. It's going to hurt. And then it'll feel better. And then it'll hurt. And then it'll feel better. And you'll be tied into the relative success, failure, success, the 8 worldly dharmas of this is great, that's terrible. This is great, that's terrible. This is life, this is death. This is success, this is failure. And we're not trying to get rid of that. We're not trying to abandon anything. Don't abandon anything. If you need a practice, then include. Include until you see there isn't anything left. What is it when nothing's left? There isn't anything left to include. I can give you a word, it's a highly relative, highly polished, sparkling word. If you understand it, you may remember this 20 years from now. Freedom. And it's not freedom from, and it's not freedom to, it's fundamental freedom. Known to the ego as agoraphobia. Too much space. No reference point. How do I fit in? You don't. So the just observe can happen in meditation. You're sitting, whatever happens, just that. Nothing about that. Just that. Just it may feel raw and rugged. It may feel uncomfortable or even painful. Do nothing with it. Don't cover it up. Don't fluff it up. Tamp it down. Do nothing with it. Unless you do. And then if you do, then just watch that. I like to say it this way. Just back up 1/4 of an inch. Whatever is happening coming out of your, I can't get the karmas mixed up, prarabdha karma, the karma that's coming out of the past. Whatever's coming out of that may have enough force behind it that you insofar as there is a you, whatever that is, you need to do that. You have to do that. So if you're just observing, you'll know without making a choice. You'll know when to express and when to shut up. You'll know it. You won't make decisions about anything. If you're still making decisions by weighing relative truth, then just watch that. Just watch the way you keep buying into this and rejecting that. So sitting on the cushion, of course, just observe is a little bit more clear. Just observe. You can't really find thoughts. And as I said in the meditation instruction a little earlier, as I recall that I said anyway, see if there is more than one thought. If there's more than one thought, you should be able to see the difference between them. You should be able to see the front of a thought, the back of a thought. Like it's like saying the other way of using a concept is to say, is there more than one moment? Moments don't have fronts and backs, like a second does or a minute does. In what's referred to as post-meditation or an awareness practice out in your everyday life, when you're going to the store, picking up some groceries, getting gas for your vehicle, talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends, relatives, your mate. Keep it very simple. Just receive whatever's happening. Don't add on that extra set of whatever it is, that other extra layer of clothing, of concepts and ideas about everything. Have a willingness to just see the raw situation. And the raw situation is not particularly nutritious to ego. It does not get puffed up by that, fluffed up. It doesn't get enough energy to keep going. So sometimes I say, just stay in your sense fields. Whatever you're receiving, in the sense, any sound you're hearing, just that's right here. It's right now. It's just a moment. Sound, smell, taste, touch, hearing. When you're talking with someone, looking in them in the eyes, and you're listening to them, when you listen, also receive through all the other sense, turn all of them on. Just see, just smell, just taste. Obviously, I'm not asking you to lick people. Dangerous, don't do that. But I'm saying there's a quality of actually tasting. There's even a teaching, rochig in Tibetan, called one taste, which, as far as I understand, I don't know the guys that people that came up with that idea, but there's something about this. Just there's nothing else but this. It's an understanding that just transcends everything, and even the word transcendence is like a post-it note. So there's a lot of things that are, you could say, appearing, the objects of the six sense fields, including the mind, that are just appearing and going away. They show up, they turn around a little bit, and they leave. The color that someone is wearing. You'll notice when you look at someone, and if you register without even saying in your own mind, red, they're wearing a red jacket. If you don't even say, or like when you see Rumi's raincoat. Rumi has a yellow raincoat, came from Mayun, right? You see Rumi's raincoat, I mean, it's pretty hard to do anything but just receive yellow. That's why bumblebees have yellow. I want to tell you things you don't already know. Now, why are the black lines in there? So you'll recognize the yellow. You can't see the yellow without the black lines in the bumblebee. You knew that, right? Yeah. Just receive. Don't differentiate. Black and yellow are not two different things. It's just two ways that the same thing shows up. One taste. Realization is not an event. It's I've been saying this for years. Your grandfather did. Your grandmother did. It's Mother's Day, so you're mothered in. You're here. You're already here. It's already the case. Stop avoiding your Buddha nature. Call it something else. If it helps to take away that Buddha nature name, take it away for 3 days. Start calling it mustard sandwiches. Don't use that one, that probably wouldn't be good. But look at the way we anything that arises, instead of just observing, if you're just observing, you won't know what it is. Ego can't know what this is. And its ego is the one that knows things. Knowledge, collects knowledge. A buildup of understanding. Not wrong, not incorrect. Do that. Do that. Learn. Learn about everything. So this was number 13. Did it sound anything like the other 12? Just like it. I have no idea. I don't remember anything.
You're talking about not making a decision again?
Yes.
I'm wondering, do things still get considered if we're not making decisions?
Do they get what?
Get considered.
Oh, that's all you do is consider them. What does it mean to consider? Just look at it. Considering doesn't mean to look at it and then look away into your concepts about it. That's not considering, that's ignorance. It just masquerades as intelligence and calculation. At least I'm figuring this out. You other people around there looking at the wall and I'm figuring out what's going on. I'm coming up with an answer here pretty quick. There's no answer to Samvriti Satya relative truth. There's no answer to it. You can't take a bunch of things and push them around and make them show up some kind of answer. Those answers are all relative. If you see what they are, they collapse right back into it's like the flower collapses right back into the roots, right back into the dirt, because it's not a separate thing. More, please.
What does it mean to make a decision?
If you're making decisions, then there's somebody who thinks there's a right and a wrong and a correct and an incorrect, and operates out of an artificial relationship to what this manifestation is, which is what? Not separate. Sure, we're separated into human beings. There's a separation going on, but the fundamental understanding, and that's your, as it's been said before, that's your birthright. You can understand this. Everyone in this room, anyone watching this, and people that never heard of this can realize it's possible for everyone. When I say you're not going to make any more decisions, you just, not that you won't look at something and instead of making pancakes, instead of doing that, you have oatmeal. Sure, I mean, there's something going on there, but it's a very low level of discrimination that's going on. Not much. Because you're not gathering information. You are the information you need. Ask more. Take us all into it.
An example that shows up was when that shelf got made for the Roxus, and with the intention to put it in the White Tower room, but what was happening when it ended up in the other room instead?
What do you think? That's a good example.
It just
Did I decide something?
just looked like it didn't work there.
But that wasn't a decision. It didn't work. So it wasn't something that we thought up ahead of time. We'll say something about it. That's a good example because it just did what it's like it found where it needs to be. And interestingly enough, the space it needed to fit into was exactly the measurement, and it was an odd measurement between the wall and the molding. Put it in there and it fits in there. So that if you need more proof, there's no such thing as time. There it is. Whew, glad that's over with. That's time and space, not different. It's not something you can think up and believe in, and suddenly there was a time when I didn't know this, but finally, I've been so puzzled by that whole time and space thing. Now I know what it is. Can you say something more about that? That's a good example, actually, because no one decided anything.
I can just explain what happened. We made a rock suitcase and got all the measurements for the White Tower room in there, and with the understanding that it had some kind of decision that it was going to go in there, and then when it got made, it wasn't going to work in there. It was too big. It didn't.
So you didn't notice the little feet popping out of the bottom and walking out in the hall? You were busy thinking your thoughts about it or something?
Trying to stack buckets to not ask for help to hang it up.
You stacked buckets? You're stacking buckets? Why?
To get it the right height.
Oh, okay.
But then when it did go over there, is the exact measurement that it needed to fit in.
It was kind of interesting, auspicious coincidence. Just happened to work. Glad we made the right decision there. It would have been terrible in that other room. Yes, Kuhn.
Bowing. Did the shelf in this case was there an agenda that got lost somewhere along the way?
I think there are different ideas were coming up and going, and there was an agenda or an idea to put it in there, and then I was considering that, and then I was imagining it, and I didn't, I don't know. Junchi was involved in that to some extent. It seems like we all talked about it, and it might have. I don't recall exactly what the trajectory was. It's just that it looked like to me. It looked like it wasn't going to work in that room. We too much in a room that we're all sitting in on occasion for supper or whatever. I don't remember what you're asking about. I can't really relate to that unless you're more direct with the question. Pardon me.
What changed?
Oh, simply put, the shelf didn't want to be in there. Wanted to be out in the hallway. That's a simple. Does that help?
Yep.
No, it doesn't. Robert.
So if the shelf didn't have an agenda, and just for concept-wise, how does that effortless movement arise?
Very good. It arises because because you're with whatever's happening rather than you're abandoning what is in front of you for some kind of outcome. So there needs to be, to respond as clearly as I can to it, needs to be some kind of an openness around that area, which can, to ego mind, manifest as insecurity or we need to find out how to do this. And the language that comes up, we can't be messing around. We're wasting time here. Those are all the things we all say this to ourselves all the time about anything that hasn't come together yet. We need to push it or rush it or make it happen. I think it's just it's when we live in an open dimension, then things come together or they don't, and we're not concerned about which one they do. If you live it here all the time, you don't live it. You don't wish for a future. You don't regret a past. Whatever occurred is we get so it's a very sneaky area where we get very, very self-centered about even about our guilt. Guilt is just a form of ego. I'm the one who screwed up. I gotta stop doing that kind of thing. That's just a subtle form of self-centered. There isn't anyone. No praise, no blame is the basic teaching of the Buddha or Buddhism. It doesn't mean that this didn't cause that. Of course it did, but we take it out of its out of the context it's in, and we bring it in because we want some kind of illusion of control that we can push this, we can pull that, we can lock this up, and we can let this go free. So, but that situation was it was just an open dimension. It was maybe the shelf. I could see where looking at it, it might have showed up for me. We shouldn't have a shelf at all. So it's interesting how if you don't have a strong agenda about anything, then the thing itself, it's the dynamic itself is free to be the agenda. It's an odd kind of feeling to have shelves think. And they're not actually thinking, but there's a quality of let me use this word, and you can contemplate. It's respect. Really respecting your environment. Respect the tables. Respect the floor. Everything is sacred. There's no profane anywhere. That's a misunderstanding based on people wanting control of things. We have a lot of time. Yes. Sensu.
I've noticed since having Rumi and sitting much less
Yeah.
than I did before, a lot more drama and a lot more getting stirred up in my mind.
Mm-hmm. That's awareness.
From the perspective of awareness, does it matter how much gets stirred up?
The only thing that matters is the awareness. When it's time for you to awaken, nobody will be able to stop you. And if it's not time for you to awaken, there's nothing you can do to bring it about. Ha-ha. And why do I say ha-ha? Because there's this thing that if we just do practice in the right way, if we have the right teacher, the right this, all this, that somehow that will boost us into anuttara samyak sambodhi, or just clarity, yes.
So thinking of it that way, what's happening when we do practice and have a teacher in a sangha?
You're holding still. Instead of being pulled into the cartwheel of and the rotation of samsara with your eyes closed and your ears plugged and everything plugged up, and you're just going along, and you're going to pretty good feelings and pretty bad feelings and pretty good feelings and pretty bad feelings. Cause and effect, cause and effect. The consciousness is totally flooded the beingness or the physicality of the situation. So it's called spiritual materialism. Go ahead.
Is the chance to awaken 10 minutes into practice the same as 10 years into practice?
The way you're asking it, you could say it that way. But it might be a better way to say you're already awake. You just cover it up. There's less likelihood of your covering up if you're doing less. It's already what you're looking for. It's just not what you thought it was going to be. You thought it would be, whoa. And it's that more like, interesting that nothing's separate. Interesting the way not separate shows up as just flat out ordinary, tamogeshepa, flat out ordinary, nothing special anywhere. It might be initially when it starts to occur, when the sparks start to fly, if they even fly, but once this is the case, then you can't go backwards. There wasn't a forward in the first place. More? Questions are good. Make me look like a fool, please. Yes.
Does listening or seeing or tasting end when thoughts happen?
Again, please.
Does listening, seeing, or tasting end when thoughts happen or thoughts arise?
They could, but the thoughts, just like the sense of smell, is not in competition with the sense of touch. But there's a dynamic happening. There's a resonance happening there. The sense of thinking isn't in conflict with the sense of hearing or the sense of seeing. You're just receiving thoughts. There's no producer of thoughts. And so just think. One of the ways to work with this in the teaching is to try to stop the thoughts or control them. It's just a misunderstanding. It's not that it's not that it's wrong. Relatively, it's true, because thoughts are, busybodies. But you have to respect everything. Respect the thoughts. You have to respect the confusion, rather than try to cover up the confusion so that you can be enlightened. Go ahead.
How do we respect the thoughts?
Don't add to them. It'd be like running over in your neighbor's yard and saying, you're mowing the lawn the wrong way, you need to mow it this way, not that way. Don't interfere. But when confusion arises, it's just that. No agenda for anything. Of course, we have to have something, so we chant the sutras, we listen to what the words are, we use the form in order to see more clearly what is moving outside of the form. So people looking at this have all kinds of ideas and projections about people worshiping golden idols. You know, it's more about they're doing that. They're the ones who are doing that. We aren't doing anything. And when I say they're doing it, they're buying into a polarity. They're actually not doing that because they're disagreeing with that. So therefore they're doing that, not separate. Just like guards in a prison are prisoners. They're in a prison. They're locked up. So they're prisoners. They just wear uniforms. Get to go home at night, which also might be a prison.
There's a question from Greg in the UK. He says, the other day you mentioned there is no fixed self, but we are responsible for our emotions. Can you say a little bit more about that, please? Thank you.
Did I say we're responsible for our emotions?
I think you
I
have
don't-
said.
Yeah. I don't mean that you're to blame for it. I'm saying if no one came along and dumped a bucket of anger into you. So that's what I mean. It's your anger insofar as there is someone. It's your sensorium that is being affected, even though it might have been triggered out here by a supposedly or apparently outward event. So what was the rest of the question?
The other day you mentioned there is no fixed self, but we are responsible for our emotions.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
So what I would say is that the coming and going, when I say no fixed, I just say it's, the way I like to say it is like a discontinuous identity. If it were solid and real and substantial, nothing would bother us. We wouldn't be, I'm not saying something can hurt us or something, but we wouldn't be affected by somebody's comment. Because our confidence would have really powerful relative confidence. But we're not, and that you get into the area of who we are, then we're very sensitive to what others think. And we're sensitive to their compliments. We tend to fluff up a little bit, even when we may not show it, because we don't want to look prideful. And we might, be pushed down or subdued or feel sad or feel upset when somebody is critical of us, even if they're incorrect, whether they're correct, relatively correct or incorrect. So what I'm saying there basically is to be aware of whatever the emotions are. Don't add on to them. Don't take away from them. Passion, aggression, ignorance. Do nothing with them. Don't own them. I'm not saying you have to scold yourself and say, well, this is my feeling. Don't do much with it. But don't abandon it by blaming someone. Don't abandon it by going into any kind of conceptual, some kind of explanatory, even what I'm saying about it. Don't even escape into that. My teachings, the way I teach, is meant to get you to look more closely at everything without adding, subtracting, or dividing. It was Greg in the UK. So if you have more questions about that, it sounds like there's more about that I could respond to, but it needs to be response to a question rather than me giving a talk on it right now. So you could ask again. Further questions? Yes.
On occasion, you've said that when you had the opportunity to sit in front of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, that it was not only terrifying, but your mind stopped. So what, if we can't get rid of thoughts, what was that?
I don't know. Maybe because I was petrified. I've heard other people say the same thing, that when he just would come into a room, you could say, well, that's because he was a Tibetan Lama. This is a guy, and this is a middle-aged, not even middle-aged, a young guy with curly hair, smoking cigarettes, and a golf shirt. So there wasn't much kind of this great tulku on a throne. He didn't need any throne. So, and I'm not coming up with some kind of magical idea that he was radiating some kind of bodhicitta or something, although he probably was. I really don't. I don't have any idea what it is. All I know that he was a powerful, powerful teacher, regardless of all the gossip and things around him. That's. I don't know what else to say about it. Questions would bring out more probably, but I don't have much to say other than, mine would come to a halt. That's how it felt. It was like you couldn't think. Quite a nice feeling. Looking back on it, anyway.
So is that something we should aspire to?
Aspire to what? Not
To
thinking?
not thinking.
No. Want to inspire to something, save all beings. Which means don't abandon anybody or anything, starting with your own thought patterns. Every thought pattern, it's been said before, way before I got here, any thought that arises is like a living being. Don't abandon anything. Don't shut it down, don't murder your thoughts. If you want to observe the first precept, notice how you keep trying to kill yourself. If you do, maybe you don't do that. More?
So on Monday evenings, we're studying Jeffrey Hopkins' meditation on emptiness, and it's a very kind of precise, progressive way of meditating.
Yes.
Is that end result going to be stopping thoughts,
I don't know.
seeing emptiness, or seeing emptiness?
I don't know. I don't teach like that. It doesn't mean that people should be doing what I say. The people that need to do what function as a student of mine are already doing it. So there's no propaganda. There's no advertisement for anybody or anything. You notice that I have it set up so we study as much as possible. We're studying in every direction we can. Buddhist teachings. I want people to know about this. You may need to go study with Jeffrey. I don't know. I'm not going to get in your way. I don't have an agenda about gathering students, particularly. That doesn't mean that if somebody is a student of mine and they go somewhere else, at least let me know you're going. I'll help you. I'll buy your ticket. Less is better. Less students is better. Much easier. So Jeffrey is, as my friend Jules Levinson, I was just in contact with him, who was studied under Jeffrey, and he is in the process of doing some translation work or something. So all of this work is very important. People need to do this. We have scholars who are doing this, and I'm not saying everybody should be doing what we're doing. So we're going to study that material because people that are able to understand this and bring it and distill it into a conceptual structure that we can read, like Khenpo Socham Jamso's Progressive Stages of Meditation on Emptiness. It's an astonishing book when you think that it was, I think it was Ari Goldfeld, translated out of Rinpoche's Tibetan. Are you familiar with that? You studied with him. Yeah. So it's just an astonishing thing that you could read that, and it's something like cutting through. Every time you read it, you find, oh, that, no, I didn't see that before. So I'm all about studying concepts, and I'm all about spending as much time as you can sitting down. We call it facing the wall gazing. Sit down, hold still, and bring everything to a halt that you have control over without being aggressive with yourself. There's not much aggression involved in coming in and sitting down and holding still, but there might be a lot of aggression in making yourself stay there. It's a misunderstanding. Don't make yourself stay there. Respect your confusion. Respect your confusion. You know, what's the misunderstanding there is the grandmother's compassion or something like that. You know, you'd have tough love. No, you don't. Tough love is about trying to get a result. And trying to get a result is about ignoring this astonishing display of phenomena that we're confronted with, is in front of us, and it is as the cornucopia of our own mind is displaying this. We created this. This is us. You're looking at yourself everywhere. Don't ignore anything. Join nothing. Leave nothing. Ignore nothing. Any further questions? Very good, thank you.
We'll stand and dedicate the merit in the back of our purple chant books. Just like to remind everybody about the donation boxes that are in the hallway, and thank you again for your contributions to help support these teachings and this environment.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jio san shi shi fu, shi son mu sa mo ko sa, mo ko ja oro mi. The 10 directions, the 3 worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, its buildings, gardens, and all adjoining areas from any and all dark or negative energy. Remove and dissolve any negative energy or devices. Fill everything and everyone with light. Please shield and protect with light our teachers, monks, students, and all practitioners of the Dharma, our families and friends from negative forces and energy from now on. Help us to realize the truth of the Buddha's teachings.